So I've had some dust-ups on Twitter in the past 6 months about um, Star Wars, and they get kind of flame war-like. Now, unfortunately, the miscommunication or the angst or whatever has caused several people uh, to not to stop following me, and that's unfortunate. It's not the end of the world. I'll be okay, but whatever. So I'm going to explain myself in video because it doesn't seem to work in text. I know it won't work for the people who've had me on block now or whatever, but let's just get to the chase. Is that it's not about any of the political things. When a lot of the times when people say I'm not into the Disney thing, it becomes a political thing. You say, well, you don't like it because you're an ist or an ism, or you want to vote for that guy, and you know, and then the other people say, well, you like it because you're this ism or this ist, and you like it because you vote for that guy. And I don't give a shit. I've got my political leanings, and and people say this, they go, well, if it was if it was political propaganda that was bolstering that guy, you'd love it. And there's where you're wrong, Spanky. There's where you're wrong, because the whole point of Star Wars is to be invested in their world, not to take elements of ours and bake it into that world. And when you add in certain new entries to the Wikipedia for Star Wars, when you overtly talk as a director about baking in certain coding, certain political phraseology, this isn't subtle. And don't want it because you may not be old enough to remember it, but there was this old soap commercial called Calgon, and the commercial was a housewife being inundated by crazy kids in a hectic day, and when it was time to just make that all go away, she used the product to make a bubble bath, lock the door, and just chill. And the tagline was, Calgon, take me away. And that's what entertainment is supposed to be. That's what I want. I want to submerge myself in a relaxing, hot, chill bubble bath of goodness that has F all to do with that guy, that other guy, any category of real world anything. So that's why I don't like it. And that's why people are upset, because their own safe spaces, for I hate to use the phraseology, but their escapism, their place to go to get away from it all, is being subverted into something where you're not escaping any of it. It's being pushed on you by putting the messaging in the entertainment. So, and I bring this up that this is being done by Disney. It wasn't being done so much by George Lucas, if at all. Although there were some arguments that there was some political messaging behind parts of the prequel. Lucas, as far as I know, has emphatically denied that. But anyway. So I've had conflicts about this with a lot of people. And one of the things I've learned is that there is when somebody says they're a fan of Star Wars and they're a role-playing person, because that's the majority of people that I get into these fights with, I assume, and there's the problem, because you shouldn't assume, but my assumptions are this: you're a hardcore geek, you have a deep knowledge of Star Wars if you're a fan of it, and that you know that it's been around since 1977. The George Lucas stuff isn't the Disney stuff. There's more than the feature-length films. There's books, games, RPGs, all sorts of comics, all sorts of different media. The holiday special, that kind of stuff. And a lot of these people don't. They just don't know about that, or they don't care about that. And so when I come after them and say, "Hey, you can still enjoy Star Wars through these other channels," they just they don't know what I'm talking about, or they're not so much a Star Wars fan; they're more a culture warrior, and they get all blustery and pissed off and start saying nasty things because they want to be able to fight their little culture war thing, and that's what it's really about. It's about the overall trend of putting this stuff, political stuff, inside all forms of entertainment. So, but for the people that don't know anything other than maybe a couple of video games and some movies, there's a lot more to it. And I think the difference is that younger people have a lot less imagination. Sorry, a lot of people are getting all mad and all that, but the thing is that when a screen is in front of you all day, when everything's instant, and this picture looks like it's some AI thing. She looks like her arm is half missing, so this isn't the greatest thing. But this these high density polygons and stuff like that. It's different than people who grew up playing video games that were made out of sprites. you know, uh, I don't have a lot of pictures of my youth for an unfortunate personal reason that we won't get into. So I don't have a lot of citation, but I do remember a lot of the visuals in my head, even at my advanced age. And I know that when a friend of mine and I went to go see Indiana Jones, we loved it. We thought it was great. And the next few days when we hung out together, we were imagining being Indiana Jones, but we weren't reenacting the movie we saw. We were characters from the movie we saw. We went and did our own thing. We LARPed, is what you'd call it now. We went out into the forests, which were really just, wooded lots around our house and stuff like that. And we went searching for, antiquities that weren't there, stuff like that. But the point of that is that the movie wasn't it. It wasn't the end all. It wasn't everything. It was a catalyst. Sure, we loved the effects. Sure, we loved the action sequences. We loved the movie and we sat in front of it and enjoyed it. But it wasn't the thing that sated our curiosity or our enjoyment or our imagination. It was the thing that sparked it. We would go out and play, as we called it. The word play was used. And we would go play and imagine these things and make up our own worlds and our own scenarios and stories. And there wasn't anything that could surpass that. There was things that we would do, like go play the Indiana Jones video game on the Atari or something like that, and there again, it would satisfy you for a while. But if we were left to our own designs, would we have ever gotten off the Atari? Maybe not. But we weren't. We had, and this isn't some rip that you're raised improperly or anything. It's just telling you that eventually Mom was coming through the door telling you to get off that thing and go outside and do something else. So we would take the whip and the fedora and the brown bomber jacket that was way too hot for July, but we'd wear it anyway, and we would go out there and we would be Indiana Jones in the backyard or the wooded lot or wherever. And we would do the same for all these movies. These movies just, you got the movie, you watched the movie, then you bought the toys and you used the toys to play your own scenarios. Same with Star Wars. I couldn't collect enough stormtroopers because I wanted to have, that group of stormtroopers to have those big battles that we saw on the show, So, and as we got older and our parents threw away or sold our toys, or we did, or traded them away or whatever, and we moved into games like RPGs, It was the same thing. An RPG was a way to get more from the story. We didn't watch Star Wars and go, okay, well that's it. That was a neat story. We wanted to know more. We wanted to digest every piece of information because it was so good and we never wanted it to end. And when we couldn't get any more, or we got a little bit, we would take that little bit and we would convert it into a story. So my whole point is that instead of fighting this idiotic battle where you complain about Disney, but it doesn't do a damn bit of good to reverse their decision making in their creative, you're not going to win this back. And going all black pill is just kind of, it's like, you know, the rage quit is, it's really kind of embarrassing to watch. You're grown up people, you know. Screw you guys, I'm going home is kind of a, you know, a lame position. So why not use the imagination that you should have, or if you don't, develop and hone one to play the stories, the Star Wars stories that you enjoy or that you want to see. If you're addicted to the high polygon count CGI, then, you know, I don't know what to tell you. Then maybe you're more into that than storytelling or interesting characters or anything like that. If you can't be entertained unless it's 8K surround sound, I think that's more a product of the generation than the particular content being, you know. And maybe there's no way to fix that. Maybe you're from that area and you go, what are you talking about? I want to go play, you know, make cave paintings on on some tree or whatever. Okay, fair enough. But I have a stack full of RPG books that are filled with Star Wars content that can be explored and with imagination can be enjoyed. And I think that if you're going to harumph at Disney and say, well, I'm not going to be a Star Wars person anymore, maybe you should harumph at Disney and just say you're not going to be a Disney person anymore and go look for positive channels, paths to walk down where you can still enjoy Star Wars and not put out those asinine never forget what they've taken from us memes, because they haven't really taken anything from you. You've ceded, you've given up, you've turned bitter, and you've just abandoned something that you claim you really loved. You claim that you are all these negative emotions because you loved the thing. So I've had more than one person say, well, I just really loved Star Wars as a kid, and they've ruined it so much. I just hate it so much now because of how much they've ruined it. It's just soured me on the whole thing, and now I hate it. What? Come on. So I just go play an RPG of it, and you can have a ball, and you can tell whatever story, or you can be involved in whatever story you want with the same imagination you've always applied to the genres that are very rarely depicted. You know, what are you going to do? I don't like WotC anymore, so I'm just going to not play D&D and watch D&D movies or something, you know. The whole thing's weird. And I see people who make these comments and then will fold and go, well, you make the same thing about Wizards of the Coast, but they never stop playing D&D. You know, and they go, well, I hate WotC, and the only way that you're going to win against them is to, you know, attack them at their pocketbook. But if they ever make that super cool thing that I really loved from D&D, I'm going to go buy it anyway. Okay. So you're not really that mad at the company. You don't really have the conviction you say you do to boycott it or to turn on it. You really are just pining for these companies to produce what you want them to produce. So you're not battling them. You have an empty porridge bowl in your palms, and you're begging them to fill it with the porridge you want as opposed to the porridge the other people want. And you're never going to win because there's more of them than you, and they make a lot of money off of them, and they don't make enough off of you. And it's not just the profit from the product. It's, I don't want to get any further into it than that, but it's not just the product or the profit they're getting the money from. So be an RPG person. Be the creator or explorer of imaginary worlds that you say you are. You know, even if it's an IP. And all this goes for anything else. Indiana Jones, Doctor Who, all that stuff. They all have RPGs. They all have the ability for you to construct your own versions of them and do them the way you want, instead of groveling at the feet of people who hate you to make you the story you want.